This is Made in America with Neil Asbury and Rich Rothman.
Welcome to Made in America. I'm your host, Neil Asbury, together with co-host Dr. Rich Rothman. So, Rich, we are going to have another rockin' show today. I mean, just so much to talk about. We were both following Joe Manchin over the last few weeks, really the last few months. And it all came to a head this past week. And Joe and Sinema both stood up. And
are you proud of them?
And did the right thing.
I mean, he really stunned me because I didn't expect him to hold the course that way.
I mean, it really got very bizarre to me when you have these West Virginia sports sort of personalities, Nick Saban and Jerry West and so on, from the great mountaineer state of West Virginia, putting pressure on Joe. I mean, so when you do that, you're getting desperate. And, he stood up, he stood tall, and God bless him. And God bless the state of West Virginia and Arizona, too, because, for sending them.
Well, he's stronger than an astronaut because Kelly caved. He just before they were going to do the votes this week, he said, well, okay, I'll go along with it.
Well,
and there's a guy who, he went, 200 miles up.
The Republicans are probably sending.
He got sunburned.
Very, very nice baskets of cheese and wine to Chuck Schumer for bringing that vote up, because it is going to put some Democrat senators on their heels as they try to justify scrapping the filibuster. I mean, for a short-term win, you're going to trash the United States Senate, and what an incredible institution it is, and something very unique in the world. But for a short political
he gave him
gain,
free advertising. They're going to make great ads.
And by the way, I mean, the Republicans should never, ever, fall into that trap either. And by the way, when Trump was trying to get the Republicans to do it, the senators said, no way are we going to do this. And if Harry Reid didn't go to nuclear option on political appointees, then Mitch McConnell wouldn't have had the cover that he needed to do it for the Supreme Court. So, tit for tat. And by the way, that would be the new American political scene, tit for tat. Very, very scary. Hey, but we got a really great conversation coming up. An incredible guest to start the show out. Mark Mills, he's a physicist, really smart guy, senior fellow at the Manhattan Institute, a faculty fellow at Northwestern University, and he is also the author of the new book, The Cloud Revolution: How the Convergence of New Technologies Will Unleash the Next Economic Boom in a Roaring 20s Again. Very good. Hey, Mark, thanks for being on our show.
Well, thanks for having me on. Yeah.
So,
great.
Not the 1920s, but the 2020s.
Yeah.
I love it. I love the analogy there. And I agree. I mean, I'm an American entrepreneur, an American manufacturer, and you said, hey, look, there's nothing to be afraid about here, but putting things into the cloud is going to create all sorts of efficiencies throughout our economy, that it's not going to take away jobs, but it's going to create jobs, but really good paying jobs, because we're going to be operating so much more efficiently, be so much more profitable, and have so much more to invest. So tell us about your book.
You just said it all. We're done.
Oh, well, that's it. I agree with everything he said. Can we do the commercial now?
Yeah, exactly. We're done. Well, the point of the book, of course, is really two aspects. So one is to try to explain why the cloud as an infrastructure is, in fact, structurally, phenomenologically different. It's a phenomenal infrastructure. It's as different from the internet as the internet was different from the telephone networks that predated it. So the easiest way to summarize the difference is think in terms of the internet gave us you got mail, and that was affected mail and TV distribution and news, but it didn't change the structure of businesses and the economy. What the cloud does is not connect people so much, not do computing, but inference and advice. So I think in terms of Google Map or Apple Mapping, that's an advice function based on lots of different kinds of information provided to you in real time. Bringing that to manufacturing, bringing that to supply chains, bringing that to healthcare, those are the kinds of capabilities, real-time advice giving and inference, that is just structurally and, as soon as you stated, clearly different than just sending emails or texts. That part of the book. The other part of the book is focused on the convergence of other technologies that are not only accelerated by or made more easily commercialized by the cloud, but just by happenstance occurred contemporaneously. Things like drones and autonomy and robots in warehouses, 3D printers, the whole constellation of new manufacturing capabilities. One can now manufacture at atomic scale, literally molecular scale manufacturing. Unprecedented capabilities across the landscape that get less attention in the news, but in combination, these things really portend a revolution like the 1920s, when we had a similar convergence of new machines like cars, airplanes, and electric motors, new materials. That was the dawn of the pharmaceutical age and plastics. And, of course, that was also the dawn of radio and telephones. That combination in 1920 ignited growth for 80 years. That's exactly the kind of thing that's going on right now, again.
Well, I think you're right. When you look at these and you're looking for set theories of, what created and what was catalytic, or what were the catalysts of making things happen. While you're talking, I was thinking, all right, so what happened in the 1800s that was really significant in unifying this country in some way like this, like a network? Well, I would say the Transcontinental Railroad was one of the things that I'm thinking of. Right away, that gave you the ability to communicate and work with folks, thousands of miles away. Telegraph goes along with that. Going forward, you have the telephone. And believe it or not, even though electricity has been around for a long time, as you broke into the 20th century, but you got to the 1920s, everyone did not have electricity everywhere you went in the United States. You went to rural America, they were still, paying John D. Rockefeller's company, for kerosene and so forth. But as you migrated the 20s and all the things that you're talking about, which I find remarkable, those who were born in the late 1800s or have left us now, probably most of them, if not all of them, they experienced this incredible psychological change on everything that was happening. In terms of communication, what I see happening now, and I think you're very right, Mark, now we have a different set theory. It's not just the communication. And it is data. Data is very important. Watch the movie Sneakers with Robert Redford, and you'll understand that. Just little zeros and X's and ones that people need to have. But it really changes now how we exist, the way we view every day, what we do, how we do it, how we purchase, how we ship it, and think forward, giving us the idea to dream better and move things forward. So I really think this is a real game changer.
Well, it is. In fact, to your point, if you think back to the big structural revolutions, and they are rare and episodic, in infrastructures, the rail age, the Transcontinental Railroad changed America profoundly, but it was not possible but for the confluence of high-strength steel being invented independently, along with the steam engine, and the invention independently of telegraph, because without that, you couldn't schedule railroads. You had to schedule them because you could only build a single track. You couldn't have trains running into each other. So scheduling was made possible by the telegraph. So the three things had to occur and mature simultaneously. This is a pattern that I map out in my book. I call it the rule of threes, and it's pretty much a universal pattern in revolutions. So we're at a turning point. In the cloud, again, it's easy to, it sounds like a fuzzy word. The fact of getting advice, not storing information in the cloud and streaming movies per se, but the ability to do your job and literally, and we do this with Alexa and Siri, but to ask a question in language, natural language processing, the natural language movement in computing has been extremely difficult to achieve. It's there now. When I was at Bell Labs a century ago, when dinosaurs roamed the earth, scientists were working hard to come up with natural language recognition, so machines could recognize people talking instead of goofy, clunky typing. We know we're close. I mean, Siri voice is pretty good, right? The Android voice is pretty good, but it's getting better, and it's getting better now at accelerating pace because of, again, computing power in the cloud. It's just astonishing.
Hey, Mark, we don't have a lot of time left, but this is a game changer. I get that. Will it be accessible to our entrepreneurs? I mean, you talk about how our manufacturing will be robotified, and hey, that's not a problem. This is not a doomsday prediction that we're going to lose all of our jobs. We're still going to have our jobs. We're going to be very efficient, but will our entrepreneurs, the backbone of our economy, will the cloud be accessible to them, or is it just too costly and it's only for the big boys?
Well, it's actually the inverse, which is fascinating. I'm a partner in a fund we started for small businesses and entrepreneurs. And I can tell you it's just been a radical transformation from 10 years ago. Using a data center, using compute function at the supercomputing level was only available to big boys, to the big corporations that could afford access to or owning their own machine. Now you can buy access to supercomputing power by the drink. In fact, introductory rates for small businesses for free for a year. It's typically what Amazon and Google and all the big providers do for small entrepreneurs. You get access to supercomputing power that was not available at any price in the Defense Department just 20 years ago, and that is profoundly optimistic and a huge accelerant for small businesses. So I think it's the combination of access to I'll call it manufacturing on demand, or the democratization of manufacturing, which comes with automation and robots, the robotification of manufacturing.
That's the word I would have used, democratization. I think you're 100% correct on that.
But hey, Mark, unfortunately, I'm getting a message here that we need to unfortunately need to end there. But great place to end. This is great for our entrepreneurs and our small businesses. That is what I wanted to hear, and that's what you confirmed. Mark Mills, a physicist, senior fellow at the Manhattan Institute, faculty fellow at Northwestern University, and the author of The Cloud Revolution, How the Convergence of New Technologies Will Unleash the Next Economic Boom in a Roaring 2020s. Hey, Mark, thanks for being on the show.
I'm delighted to join you. Thanks for having me on.
Coming up, Dr. Rich and I still have a lot more to talk about. Welcome to Made in America. I'm your host, Neil Asbury, together with co-host Dr. Rich Rothman. Well, when you talk about our health of our economy, you talk about our entrepreneurs, you talk about our small businesses, our risk takers, those who build this country, the backbone of our country. Just like we were talking a moment ago with Mark Mills about, how does our entrepreneurs compete in the future? Do they have access to technology? Are they going to be able to afford the technology? Well, the good news is yes. You got this thing called the cloud. And the cloud is affordable and is a game changer for our entrepreneurs, giving them the ability, the computing capability, and access to technology and information like they've never had before that was only reserved for the largest corporations. Well, first of all, just for the U.S. government when it all started, to the largest corporations. And now our entrepreneurs have access. So, obviously, when you see the president give a press conference, which he doesn't do very often, Rich. I mean, he hardly does it all. You don't have access.
2 in 1 year.
You don't have
2 in 1
access.
year. That's the stat.
It's obviously a big deal for all of us, right? Trying to understand, where this country's going. And if you look at, where most people think this country's going, it's not a good place. And we were talking just a moment ago, Rich, James Carville, he's a Democrat, very close to Bill Clinton. I guess he was one of his most important advisors. I guess he's from Louisiana. He's got that Cajun thing going. And you and I both caught this thing. He was on one of the news shows. And
Meet the Press.
It was a Meet the Press.
Yes.
And he was really railing against the Democrats, calling them a bunch of
he was
whiny...
with the genius Chuck Todd.
Oh yeah.
Who's a real winner.
He's a real smart guy, and he kind of laid into the Democrats and called them all very whiny and stop your whining. You're not going to win if you're just whine. And let's listen to what he had to say.
You gloat and you promote You talk about the fact that we pretend to care about child poverty, although no columnist that I read in the paper ever talks about it. It's the lowest child poverty rate we've had in history. We claim that we care about hourly workers. Hourly workers today have more leverage at any time they've ever had in my 77 years of existence on this planet. All right? You talk about we want jobs, 6.4 million jobs, more jobs than any president ever created in the first term. What you do, Chuck, is you run on what you got. You don't run on what you didn't get.
Well, and he's making that comment because they didn't get anything that they wanted to get, but they're just, running based on the momentum of the American economy.
And
right?
you spin what you got.
What did he? I mean, what did the president do? What did the president do to influence any of those things, other than, hey, look, what do you got out there? What's the narrative? What narrative can we create?
Well, Neil, they wouldn't have created so many jobs, and we can dispute, by the way, whether he created more jobs than Trump did in the first year of office. But they created the scenario where they lost all those jobs. Think about that. It was the Democratic governors that started the landslide of shutting down the economy. And they pushed it forward and pushed it forward. And then Fauci came along and said, well, I really think you should shut it down. I think you should shut it down. And then they shut it down. So you lost, almost 30 million jobs overnight?
Right. So
where do you go from there?
So of course you're going to gain.
Of course you're going to gain. It's like, the first year you're in business, you sell X. The second year, you sell a little bit more. Oh, my God, we're up 100%. You want to play with the numbers? You can play with the numbers. But they created the environment in which we lost all those jobs. And just saying that.
And then they're saying we made a few of them back. But yeah. I got to tell you that Biden must be very much dialed in with James Carville, because let's listen to what he said at his press conference.
Did you overpromise to the American public what you could achieve in your first year in office? And how do you plan to course correct going forward?
Why are you such an optimist? Look, I didn't overpromise, but I have probably outperformed what anybody thought would happen.
So there you go. He definitely was listening.
Well, he did outperform. He screwed up more things than anybody would have imagined in 12 months. He outperformed. He did phenomenal on that. If you got to do something that's really bad, Joe did a spectacular job. He's a contrarian. Just saying.
Yeah, so it's I don't know. I mean, that whole thing, and you look at the economy and what's going on, and, what a resilient country we have, despite all of this, and just kind of go down the list of things that just have not gone well for this country in the last 12 months. I mean, do
we have time before a break? Because this is going to go on for a while if you want to have that list.
But yet this country just keeps going and chugging along and chugging along and chugging along. So it is a real testament to the strength and the power of the American entrepreneur, just to kind of to tune out all of this noise and all of these problems and the things. I mean, you would think that this economy should be crashing right now based on how this president has managed it. But no, the economy is still going along, creating jobs, doing all these great things like Mark Mills just told us about, not because of, but despite the leadership in this country.
It speaks to the strength of the U.S. economy and the power of the U.S. worker. Trump set us up to be super successful. He took the stock market to incredible highs, employment to incredible highs. Had we not had that ability to do that, when the pandemic hit, it would have been a lot worse for this country. But we're powerful, and we're the can-do country. Never forget that. America first.
Well, next we got coming on someone here who's going to hopefully be part of the next generation of members of Congress, Blake Harbin. He's a CEO of Houzzle Financial. It's a mortgage lending company in the southeast United States, but he is running for Congress in Georgia in the 6th District, which is Newt Gingrich's old district.
Yep.
You don't want to miss it.
Promoting American industry. This is Made in America with Neil Asbury and Rich Rothman.
Welcome back. We're pleased to have you with us. We're having an incredible show here, having a great time, and it's going to continue. We've still got a lot more to talk about here. Hey, Rich, you know, one of the things about doing talk radio that's been so great over the years is that we get to talk to a lot of folks who are running for Congress and running for Congress for the first time. And there's a lot of really interesting people who are stepping up and who want to do the right thing and do wonderful things for our country, especially in this great time of need. And we've been able to meet a lot of those folks. Many of them have gotten elected, so they're now members of Congress or they're senators.
Well, we held Capito, and she got elected that year.
Yeah,
I'm sure it was our vocals that helped.
Tom Cotton, you know, when he was first running, he's been on the show. Yeah,
I really
he was
liked Tom.
Marco Rubio. How many shows did we do with Marco back when he?
We did the first radio interview when he announced he was running. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
That's
yes,
right.
I do.
I know.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
And then subsequently, so many more. I mean, we can go on and on and on and on about so many great folks we've been able to meet in radio when, you know, we knew them back then. So it's a great part of our job is to be able to talk to these folks and hear their message and, you know, get them ready for the big time here, because this is going to be a very nasty election cycle.
And enormously important.
An enormously important.
Very important election. We have to win, and the folks that we're interviewing, they have to win. You know, so I'm delighted we're going to have this gentleman on the show today.
Well, let's make the intro
Let's
right
do
now.
it.
We're happy to have Blake Harbin. He's the CEO of Houzzle Financial. It's a mortgage lending company in the Southeast United States, and he is running for Congress in Georgia's 6th Congressional District. Blake, welcome to Made in America.
Thanks so much for having me.
So I got to ask you, why? Why are you running?
That's actually, you know, it's obviously that's a frequent question, a question we frequently get asked. I mean, at this stage in the game, it's like when you take a look around, what choice do I have? I mean, we're looking at what's going on, what's going on with the kids and stuff like that. It doesn't matter, you know, where the opposite side seems to be attacking right now. It's going to put us in a spot where it doesn't matter what we fix today. If we don't fix, you know, the foundation, which is our children, then what future is there? Is it going to matter what we fix today? I don't think it will, unless we fix it now.
No, that's very, very true. And you know what's interesting? This is a very patriotic, wonderful thing to do, you know, because it is. Because people are looking at what's happening right now, and we're going to get into it in just a few minutes. But things have gone so south, so fast, in such a bad way that none of us, I mean, you know, Biden said that, you know, I want to tell you, I think I outperformed. Well, you did outperform. You outperformed in such a negative way that nobody would ever expect the disasters that we've seen in this country, around the world. Anything that you've touched, you've destroyed. So I would say he outperformed more than I thought he would outperform, and I'm a street kid from New York. You know, I'm a really tough guy, and I could never imagine. Wait a minute, I'm going to use the word that we would never imagine this would happen. Just as we'd never imagine that there'd be mutations and so forth. So we're delighted you're doing it. I think you're courageous as heck, because it's going to be an ugly time.
It definitely is. But, you know, I've been around long enough, and I've done enough things in my life. I think I can transpose those skills into this. And I mean, hey, someone's got to stand up on the firing line. And in this particular case, I mean, I plan on it being me.
Let's listen to Senator Johnson from Wisconsin. And he had a statement this last week, and he was responding to President Biden's overperforming statement. Let's listen to what Senator Johnson said.
Listen, he's living in a fantasy world. He really is. But here on planet Earth, when you spend trillions of dollars we don't have, when you pay people not to work and reduce the supply of goods, that's going to cause inflation. But again, here on planet Earth, what he has governed is huge radical leftist. He's not the moderate that the press said he was going to be. He's a radical leftist. He's opened up the borders. He's caused the inflation. We have catch and release now at the border, but also in our criminal justice system, the embarrassing and dangerous surrender in Afghanistan. I mean, it is a record of failure. It's almost surprising that his approval ratings are as high as they are.
So, Blake, I mean, I think that sums it up. Radical leftists. Everything else then can be summed up as part of that agenda, the radical left agenda. And everything that's happened and all the like Dr. Rich just said, all the problems that we face over the last 12 months is because of the radical left agenda. What do you think?
Oh, I mean, I would have to say I 100% agree. You know, the thing about it is he was supposed to come in and be this great uniter. At least this is what he claimed throughout his campaign. And he touted his worldly experience and just kept on, going on about how he would be so great with world policy. And we have seen everything out of him has been the exact opposite of what we actually received. I mean, the debacle.
Well, you're right. You're right. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I cut you off. I'll continue.
No worries. I mean, the debacle with Afghanistan. I mean, that was one of the most, I guess, horrific exits that could have happened. I mean, that was worse than Saigon, and we just we left American citizens, and I found that, just to be absolutely appalling, because I will even tell you, share this with you, through obviously some help and different channels and things like that, we actually got 6 American citizens out of Afghanistan, and it's like, so what you're saying is when your number one responsibility is to protect of government is to protect the people of your nation, and you're not doing that, and the people themselves are having to step up and do it, that's ludicrous. It's like, where are you? Like, what, as to Ron Johnson's point, is what planet is he on? He tries to blame Trump for every single little thing. Well, he had signed that agreement on May the 1st. Okay, they violated every agreement. You undid every single executive order except that one.
Well, not only that the Taliban actually violated that agreement, and that agreement was abrogated as a result of their inability to uphold that agreement. And as a matter of fact, there was no agreement by the time that Biden got a hold of it and started taking people out. You're right. To me, it was the most egregious thing that I have seen in my lifetime. Next to the border, by the way. That's pretty egregious. That comes in a strong number, too. But to do what he did, like, and then say, I have no apologies, that's amazing.
Hey, Blake, we got to take a quick break. We're on with Blake Harbin, who's running for Congress in Georgia. We're listening to what Biden did wrong and all the things that we don't like. But what do we stand for? That's what we're going to talk about next. Stay with us. Welcome back to Made in America. Together with Dr. Rich and myself, Neil Asbury, we're very pleased to have you with us. We're having a great time today, a great show, and we're together with Blake Harbin, who is running for Congress in Georgia, a very, very important state, a state that unfortunately, and I never, ever saw this happening. I just could have never believed it when we, in the runoff elections last year, 2 Senate seats turned Democrat. And by the way, one of those seats used to belong to Johnny Isaacson, who passed away recently. A very, very great man. I did a lot of radio shows on Capitol Hill, at the basement of the RNC. They have a radio studio there. And he and his entourage would walk over and spend time with me. He was so gracious. Just a great man. So when I saw his passing the other day, I just thought that was a tragedy, and the tragedy of having 2 Democrat senators from Georgia is a tragedy, and that's why we're seeing all this mess that we're having right now. But hopefully, we're going to change that all here in less than a year from now, and part of that wave is going to be Blake Harbin. Hey, Blake, but it's, the Democrats always say, hey, well, Republicans, they don't stand for anything. What do you guys stand for? I mean, you just complain all the time. You don't stand for anything. Let's listen to President Biden in his recent press conference.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
Think about this. What are Republicans for? What are they for? Name me one thing they're for. Mitch has been very clear. He's going to do anything to prevent Biden from being a success.
So, Blake, what are Republicans for? What are you for?
What are you for?
Well, first and foremost, we are for small government. We don't need the government to tell us how to live. We are obviously for school choice. We don't like CRT. We want our children to, when they go to school, we want them to learn how to think and not what to think. We are completely against this, just fragrant money spending. I mean, like it was monopoly money. It's just throwing it out there. And you can't continue just to waste it on everything, because that's what they're doing. They're wasting it. It's like, his whole Build Back Better infrastructure program. If you didn't have all the stuff in it, all the extra, but for lack of a better term, crap in it, then it might actually get passed. Republicans are absolutely, we want bridges, we want roads, we think our voters should have access to internet, but we can't just add all these extra gender studies and all these other little things in. Like, this has nothing to do with infrastructure. This is supposed to be an infrastructure bill, not I just want to throw a bunch of different items in it and get it passed bill, because that's what it ultimately has turned into, and that's why it's failed. And that's why I believe it will continue to fail.
Well, also, I think the conversation that they're having, and they try to do this week, just very recently, is get the bill through, or get the ability to have a vote, change the filibuster, and pass it's always the reverse with the Democrats. The Freedom Act. So people were protecting democracy. Everyone on the left, every media outlet on the left said the exact same words. They probably all got their check this week from Soros, but every one of them is saying, it's the defeat of democracy if that doesn't fail. It's the demise of democracy if it doesn't fail. It was the alliterative D this week: demise, defect, destruction of democracy, and that's a complete lie, an absolute lie.
Absolutely, and didn't they use it 237 times last cycle?
100%. When it was convenient for them, 100%. When it wasn't, oh my God, Chuck Schumer's up there. Well, we can't do this. We're going to turn into a banana republic if we do this. This is not the way it's supposed to be. It's just, I find it astounding. But you have a good soundbite for this, don't you? Or don't we? We don't.
Not on this particular
Not on this
one.
one. Gotcha. All right, never mind. Pay no attention to that. He knows not what he says.
But I'll tell you, that filibuster thing is something for us all to be scared about. And if they got this close, will they do it again? And the Republicans, also have to control their instincts, because, they can say, well, they tried to do it and they were stupid. They couldn't get it done, but we're going to do it and we will get it done. And then they will be just as wrong as the Democrats.
Absolutely.
We can't get rid of the filibuster. And I hope this is a litmus test in this next election on where you stand on that, because I think independents, they will punish you if you want to completely trash the Senate. I believe you are in great peril.
100% agree. That would really be the end to our democracy. And yes, I'm aware we are actually a republic. So, but putting that in, the whole purpose of the Senate when it was created was to slow the House down a little bit.
That's right. That's exactly right. So they would be destroying not only the Constitution in the way the founding fathers designed it, it would eliminate the ability to actually have the average person have a say in the House.
I think Joe Manchin summed it up very, very well. This has been some time ago. I saw him make this comment like more than a year ago, that the House sends over this hot cup of tea, and the Senate is the saucer below the cup of tea to help cool it down, because that's what their role is not to go on these wild gyrations on the slimmest of votes and to try to completely transform the country into something that it just is not. Hey, Blake, unfortunately, we're out of time. Blake, he's running for Congress in Georgia. It's a state that we absolutely need and a district that we absolutely need. We got to flip the House, and Blake is going to help us do it. Blake, thanks for being on the show.
I appreciate it so much, and thank y'all for having me. And, if your listeners want to help us with some support, they can go to blakeharbin.com. Because obviously campaigns are not they're not very cheap, and in order to make a difference, I have to get elected. So they can always go to Blake Harbin. That's BLAKEHARB as in boy IN.com. Hey,
Blake, thanks for reminding me of that. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Good luck,
man.
Thank
y'all so much for having me. Good luck. Thanks.
Coming up, Dr. Rothman and I still have much more to share with you. Welcome to Made in America. This is Neil Asbury and co-host and partner, Dr. Rich Rothman. So, Rich, it's always great to try to help out those folks running for Congress and giving them an opportunity to address a wider audience, but also to help hone their skills, and to get that message down, to be able to really be able to talk about it and to come out of it, very natural. I mean, there's a lot to be said for running for Congress and being able to really get your thoughts together and being able to articulate them and doing it very quickly on a fly and being asked all sorts of questions and have the answer and make it natural. I mean, it's a lot of work to be able to do that.
No, it's not easy to do that, but it does take, in this day and age, this is why I said that to Blake, a lot of courage. Because the Democratic Party, the handlers of the Democratic Party, the PR people in the Democratic Party, the legal teams, and there are hundreds of them in the Democratic Party, are vicious, vicious people. And they attack, and they use innuendo, and they invert words that you're playing with. Anything they can do to discredit, destroy, and wipe you out, they will do that. And there's a history of that, and do not take that lightly. So when a guy like Blake and others that we're going to have throughout the year comes forward and says, I am willing to take that risk. I want to try and do something right for the country. As did Trump, for that matter, except he's a multi-billionaire. I have the utmost respect for these guys and women and admiration, because it's a very courageous thing to do.
So, moving on here, we have it's a very courageous thing.
Where do you go after that?
I don't know. I cannot better that.
All right, we're done.
But hey, look, we don't have a whole lot of time left, but we had James Carvell on the Ragin' Cajun, and we got another gentleman from Louisiana, and this time Senator Kennedy from Louisiana. He's on the other end of the spectrum here. We're going to listen to what Senator Kennedy had to say this week about President Biden's failures.
The Biden administration has mismanaged COVID. It has mismanaged inflation. It has mismanaged the border, and it has mismanaged foreign policy, all in 1 year. If the aliens landed tomorrow and said, "Take me to your leader," it would be embarrassing.
I just love this guy. He is so terrific. He's a gem. He's an absolute gem.
I didn't see where that was. I didn't see that coming. But it all ties together, right? We go back to the overperforming comment that President Biden had in his presser. He was overperforming, and I think Senator Kennedy says, "Yeah, you're overperforming, but in the wrong places."
Wrong places, exactly. You're doing the wrong thing. You're going in the wrong direction, but you're doing well at doing that.
But, one thing is that, there was a lot of things that kind of bothered me, but, it's politics and all of that. But then there was the comment about the Ukraine. And I know that's not really, our show, and, we're not a geopolitical sort of talk show or anything
right. It's not in our normal wheelhouse.
It's not our normal thing to talk about. But, when you think, I do business in the Ukraine, so I got to say it. I do a lot of business in Russia. So, Russia and Ukraine and that part of the world, it's a very fascinating part of the world. But when the president had said that, well, if he just took a little bit of the Ukraine, I think we could be okay with that.
If it's minor.
If it's a minor intrusion.
He just gave him carte blanche.
If it's a minor intrusion, then, hey, look, we're going to kind of be okay with that. I mean, but, look at, you're talking with people's lives. I mean, it's folks, this is not like a place that doesn't exist in a book. This is a real place with real people. And when you say that, and just think about these kids and these mothers and families and these people and trying to build their lives and their businesses and so forth. And you're on the frontier, God forbid, of Russia, and you're looking across that border and this army's amassing. I mean, that's scary enough. But then you have the President of the United States telling those people on the other side with all of that heavy equipment, armed like crazy and ready to pounce. And then your ally, the one who's, keeping the Russians in check is saying, just as long as you just take a little bit of it. I got to tell you, Rich, I mean, that was devastating to me. I mean, what kind of credibility do we have as a country?
Well, remember, Biden was part of the Obama-Biden team that when the Ukraine needed help, when Obama was the president, they sent help. They sent blankets, pillows, maybe a couple of my pillows. I have no idea. Be aware of that. One final word, wag the dog. Everyone should watch that again this weekend. Wag the dog, and we'll have this conversation next week. There's a reason for that.
Well, Rich, unfortunately, we're out of time, but we're going to be back again next week for another adventure of Made in America, where we never stop fighting for your jobs.